Bantu languages are languages that are found in Africa. It's one of the language family groups. And one thing about them that is strange compared to other languages around the world is that they're mutually intelligible, which means that you can understand a completely different language as long as it's a Bantu language without learning the entire language, just learning a few words in the vocabulary and by guessing what the other words mean. In this way, you could compare it to like Japanese or Korean, but it's actually closer than that. The grammar is identical in almost all of these languages. The only thing is that most of these languages have run into some form of modern language like Portuguese, Arabic, English, French. And so there might be some alterations. And in some cases, they ran into other African languages that are not part of this group, like Khoisan languages or even Niger Congo languages. It is true that for the most part you can trace origins of words based on root words. In other words, words like Gazi, which means blood in most Bantu languages, has been traced to a word meaning oil from a plant, like palm oil or something. And of course, other words this has happened to, like the word lala, which in most of the languages, whether it's a forward word, meaning it's the main word for sleep, or a backward, meaning that it's a word that you can attach to another word, like a prefix or a suffix. These words can be rooted and you can find things. For example, the word lala has the word la in it, which means place or here or area. So it would mean sleep here, which is implied in the name. The earliest recorded person to ever recognize this was a person who went on a boat with Vasco da Gama and wrote the first biography or diary detailing their trip around southern Africa. This is the first trip ever around the bottom of Africa by Europeans, where they were trying to get to India. And this guy learned an African language in hopes that he would be able to communicate with other Africans. We don't know exactly what the African language was, but we know that it must have been a Bantu language, because when he got to the other side in Mozambique, he realized that he could understand some of the words that the other people were saying. And this saved them because they could not communicate, because most of the people at the time in Mozambique did not speak English. They spoke Arabic, and they also spoke their native language that was a Bantu language. And if you didn't know Arabic, there was a good chance that you were a European, and they had suspicions that people from Africa who were Muslim had already been warned about Europeans that they should be returned to or killed because they represent a faith that goes against Islam. Since that date, there were hundreds of other Europeans who documented the similarities between these languages, because it's obvious once you know it. You don't even need to be a scholar. If you speak any Bantu language, when you hear another one, you will easily click on words that match up. A lot of people use Swahili as a example, but Swahili, even though it's a Bantu language, and this everything I said about it is true to Swahili, but Swahili has a lot of Arabic words in it, which means you could mistakenly think that the root word comes from the Bantu languages, but it doesn't. For example, lakini is actually from the Arabic word lakin. It doesn't have anything to do with the Bantu languages, unless you believe in the idea that Afro-Asiatic languages stem from Bantu languages. which is still debated.